Did you know that the tropical cyclone section in your exam paper typically comprises of about 15 marks? So today we're going to be looking at the characteristics, the conditions necessary for formation, the stages and effects of tropical cyclones. We're also going to be going over essay question tips. Hi there guys, I'm Buddy and let's get started. So first we're going to be looking at the general characteristics of tropical cyclones. So tropical cyclones form over warm ocean waters, typically between 5 degrees and 20 degrees latitude in both hemispheres. They require sea surface temperatures of at least 27 degrees Celsius to develop. And I'll explain to you exactly why that is so once we get to the conditions necessary for formation. High humidity in the atmosphere is crucial for their formation, particularly in the lower and middle troposphere. Tropical cyclones typically last from a few days to several weeks depending on environmental conditions. Now that's very important because that can be asked. They will ask, how long do tropical cyclones typically last for? They move from east to west and they are steered by the easterlies. So if they ask you what direction will tropical cyclones move in, you will say they will move from east to west. Or you can say they will move in a westerly direction. They average between 300 and 500 kilometers in diameter, with the eye being plus minus 30 kilometers in diameter. Now again, that's also very important because that will indicate the size of the entire cyclone and the eye. So our first condition that is necessary for formation will be sea surface temperatures must be at least 26.5 degrees Celsius or higher, which provides the energy needed for the cyclone to form and intensify. The warm ocean water evaporates, adding moisture to the air, which fuels the storm. Now, moisture is very important for the storm, right? That is why you have to have an ocean temperature of at least 26.5 degrees Celsius. The next condition will be the atmosphere must be unstable, meaning warm, moist air near the surface rises and cools as it moves upwards. This rising air helps generate the towering thunderstorms needed to sustain a cyclone. Tropical cyclones form between 5 degrees and 25 degrees latitude in both hemispheres because the Coriolis effect. Now, the Coriolis effect is the deflection of moving objects caused by the Earth's rotation, right? So this is necessary to create the cyclone spin. Near the equator, the Coriolis effect is too weak for cyclones to develop. Therefore, it has to develop between 5 degrees and 25 degrees latitude in both hemispheres, right? Number 4, there must be high humidity, which is moisture in the air, in the mid to lower levels of the troposphere. This is the layer of the atmosphere that is closest to the Earth's surface. This moist air is important for the formation of clouds and thunderstorms within the cyclone. Now we get to the stages, right? And our first stage is known as the initial stage. So, pressure is above 1000 millibars at the center in this stage. So let's look at the diagram quickly, right? We can see that this is a low pressure system. How do we know? We can see that the lowest pressure will be found in the center, right? And that will be above 1000 millibars. Its exact number is 1004 millibars. And we can see as you go outwards, the pressure will increase. Now these arrows, these orange arrows, will represent the flow of air, right? And whenever you see arrows flowing into a low pressure cell, that is known as convergence, right? Convergence is the movement of air into a low pressure cell. So let's look at our second point. There is a big distance between isobars. Can you see that's a very large distance between the isobars? Now the distance between your isobars is basically your pressure gradient. So if there's a larger distance, there's a more gentle gradient, right? Same thing with map work. When warm air converges towards the center of the storm, an eye forms. So light rain occurs and gale force winds occur up to 50 kilometers from the eye. We now look at the second stage, which is known as the immature stage. So in this stage, the pressure at the center will drop below 1000 millibars. Let's look at our diagram here. Now we can see that in the center there's an eye that has formed. We can see that the pressure at the center is well below 1000 millibars. It is actually 980 millibars. Remember, in a cyclone, which is a low pressure cell, the lowest pressure will always be found in the center. And we can see again, these arrows will represent the movement of air as it converges into the low pressure cell. So as the air continues to converge into the center, the eye intensifies. As you can see, that is the eye right there. Now in this stage, hurricane strength winds will occur. The diameter is 100 kilometers, right? That's also very important to know. And in this stage, which is the immature stage, cumulonimbus clouds can be found around the eye. Now we get to the third stage, which is known as the mature stage. Now we can see a lot is happening in this diagram. So let's look at the point and let's get back to the diagram. So the pressure at the center is well below 1000 millibars and it will remain at that reading. Can you see it's at 982 millibars? Now in the center you can see the eye is a lot more defined. We can see there is a very small distance between the isobars, and we can see the presence of a dangerous quadrant. A steep pressure gradient is indicated by isobars that are located close to each other. Can you see how close they are? So the closer they are, the steeper the pressure gradient. So the diameter is 300 kilometers to 500 kilometers. Right now the tropical cyclone is in its peak at this stage, in the mature stage. So you may be wondering, what is the dangerous quadrant? The dangerous quadrant will experience the most severe conditions. So within the dangerous quadrant, you will have the most severe weather conditions. So you can have torrential rain, you can have heavy winds, you can have hail, there's thunderstorms. All of that will be found in its most severe form in the dangerous quadrant. Massive cumulonimbus clouds form around the eye. And again, in the mature stage, the wind speed is more than 120 kilometers an hour. Now we get to the last stage, which is known as the dissipating stage. Now this is the end of the tropical cyclone's life. So the tropical cyclone will begin to dissipate once the pressure rises above 1000 millibars. Now there are many reasons why a cyclone will dissipate, and today we're going to be looking at three causes, right? There's three causes of dissipation. So the first cause of dissipation will be when a tropical cyclone moves over land, it loses its main energy source, which is warm ocean water, right? Friction from the land also disrupts the airflow, weakening the storm. The second cause of dissipation is moving over colder ocean waters, because remember, you have to have a minimum of 26.5 degrees. So once the ocean waters drop to below 26.5 degrees Celsius, it reduces the energy available to the storm, and this will cause it to weaken. Now, high vertical wind shear can distort the cyclone structure. This will pull apart its core and inhibit further development. Now I want to go through the weather that is associated with tropical cyclones. So as a cyclone will approach, there will be a wind speed of more than 120 kilometers an hour, right? There will be heavy rain, there will be hail, lightning, and thunder, right? Remember, this is as the cyclone will approach. We then look at the weather that is found in the eye, right, in the center. This will be calm conditions, there will be no rain, and the lowest pressure will be found in the center. So why is that? This is because the upward spiraling movement of air will create an artificial wall around the center. Now that wall will prevent any surface air from rising and cooling, and because of that there will be no condensation that will occur, and if there's no condensation occurring, then there will be no clouds or rain produced, right? And as the cyclone moves away, the weather conditions will be the same as when the cyclone is approaching. So basically they will have very high wind speeds, there will be heavy rain, hail, lightning, and thunder. So I hope this diagram makes it a lot easier for you to understand. So now we're looking at the effects of tropical cyclones. Now this can come out in the form of an essay. What you can do is you can take a screenshot of the screen, obviously, as we're going through the effects, And when you're writing it down in a notebook or on an exam pad, write it down in the form of an essay and memorize that essay. So when you go into writing your exam paper, you know exactly, okay, cool, this is how I answer this essay question. And like that, you can ensure that you get total in that section. So the first effect will be strong winds, right? Now, wind speeds in a tropical cyclone can exceed 250 kilometers an hour in the most powerful storms. These winds can cause damage to buildings, homes, and infrastructure like power lines, bridges, and roads. These winds can also cause the uprooting of trees and the destruction of forests. There will be widespread power outages, and flying debris can be life-threatening. As you can see in the diagram, there are a lot of uprooted trees, and these trees can fall on homes. And if you are sitting in a room and the roof caves in, then obviously that's going to be life-threatening. The next effect will be heavy rainfall. Now, tropical cyclones bring torrential rains that can lead to flash floods in urban and rural areas. There will be overflowing of rivers and lakes, causing large-scale inundation. There will also be waterlogging of crops and agricultural fields, which will lead to crop destruction. Next, we can see storm surge. So this is the abnormal rise in sea level caused by strong winds pushing seaward water towards the coast. Storm surges can flood coastal areas, leading to severe damage to homes and infrastructure. It can erode coastlines and destroy natural barriers like dunes and mangroves. It can also contaminate freshwater supplies with salt water. So what are the economic impacts of tropical cyclones? Not many people speak about this, right? So rebuilding after a cyclone is extremely costly. Governments, businesses, and individuals may struggle with long-term financial recovery. Damage to critical infrastructure such as roads, power lines, hospitals, and schools can take months or even years to repair. The economic cost to agriculture and industry often runs into billions of dollars, or in our case, rands. And the loss of tourism in tropical regions can severely affect local economies. The next effect will be environmental degradation. Coastal ecosystems such as coral reefs, mangroves, and wetlands can be damaged or destroyed by cyclones. This can lead to long-term changes in marine and coastal biodiversity. Soil erosion and salinization of agricultural lands can affect farming and food production for years. Now, what are some management strategies, right? How can you manage the effects of tropical cyclones? Firstly, you can implement early warning systems. So these are weather forecasting and monitoring, right? Meteorological agencies can use satellite images, weather radars, and computer models to track and predict cyclones. Early warnings can help authorities and communities prepare for the storm's arrival. They can also issue cyclone alerts. So public alerts and notifications should be issued well in advance, characterizing the cyclone's potential severity. Example, watch, warning, or emergency. Flood defenses and storm surge barriers, right? So construction of levees, sea walls, and storm surge barriers can protect coastal areas from flooding caused by storm surges. Another very important management strategy is supplies, right? So people should buy and stock up on essentials such as canned foods and water, because obviously during a tropical cyclone, you're not able to leave your home. So you're going to need canned food and water in your home to last a long time. People should also purchase medical kits. The next strategy is cattle safety. Remember, cattle should be either moved to higher ground or kept in safe structures such as kraals or sheds. If a farmer is going to leave his cattle out, then they all are going to get killed, and it's going to be a major loss for him and the community. There needs to be pre-planned evacuation routes. Authorities should establish and communicate evacuation routes and shelters in cyclone-prone areas. Communities should also be trained on evacuation procedures with drills conducted regularly, right? This can really help to save lives. You can also implement search and rescue operations, right? immediate deployment of trained rescue teams to areas affected by the cyclone to assist trapped or injured people. The use of helicopters, boats and other emergency vehicles to reach flooded or isolated areas. Because remember, during a cyclone, roads will be flooded, so you're going to have to use helicopters in order to go to isolated areas. We have come to the end of the video and I want to thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you are writing soon, I want to wish you all the best and may God bless you. Please don't forget to give this video a like, especially if you've learned new things. By giving this video a like, YouTube will push this video out to other learners so this video may help them as well. And if you want more videos like this, then please subscribe. I'll see you again in the next video. Take care, guys. Goodbye.